Right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Dishing Up Nutrition series. The topic for today is Nothing Beats a Healthy Heart in recognition of American Heart Month. I am Valaree Williams. I am one of the dietitians with the team for American Oncology Network, and we're happy to have you today. The moderator for today and who will be helping us with our question and answer session is Karen Randall, another one of the dietitians on our team. We have two features available today. We have the chat box that you can use to comment to any questions that I ask the audience or for any discussion, and then the Q&A box to use for questions. We will address questions at the end of the presentation, and please be sure to ask any burning questions you may have. All right, let's get started. February is American Heart Month, which is perfect since it's Valentine's Day and there's lots of hearts and pink and red already out there. Heart disease is a leading cause of death in the United States for both men and women. And with many chronic diseases, including heart disease, simple lifestyle modifications can help to keep blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar levels normal and lower your risk for heart attack and stroke. Today, we're going to focus on the dietary considerations to help you have a healthy heart. Do keep in mind that there are other lifestyle modifications such as exercise and smoking cessation to consider when it comes to heart health as well. So first, I always like to start when I'm talking with patients about what they can eat. I like to keep it positive because if you have a long list of don't do this and don't do that and stop doing this, really negative, and it can get you kind of grumpy. And I find that being grumpy doesn't equate to good changes that stick. So let's start with the positives. So first, you want to eat a variety of whole grain products daily. And what are whole grains? And there's a lot of confusion out there about this. Whole grains versus refined grains. Whole grains contain the entire grain, the bran, sperm, or not sperm, germ and endosperm. And refined grains have been milled in a way that removes the bran and germ and decreases amounts of B vitamins, iron, and fiber. One of my old coworkers always said that refined grains like white flour and white bread are like paying the company to remove the good stuff because you're losing nutrients and fiber in that refining process. And so examples of refined grains are white bread, processed foods like muffins, croissants, pastries, frozen waffles. As much as we love Eggo waffles, they are made with refined grains. Donuts, cakes, and pies, biscuits. We love our biscuits too. White pasta and egg noodles, as well as crackers like Ritz crackers or Club crackers. Why do you want to choose whole grains? They're a good source of dietary fiber, and we know that fiber is beneficial in preventing diseases, including cancer and heart disease. It can improve blood cholesterol levels and also help with fullness and satiety with fewer calories, which means that you can eat less of it and still feel full, which is always the battle when you're looking to eat healthier and potentially lose weight. So what should you try instead of those refined grains? Whole wheat flour, whole grain bread, preferably with 100% whole wheat or 100% whole grain on the label. High fiber cereals with 5 grams or more of fiber per serving. And you're thinking, well, just pour me a bowl of cardboard. But you can think that things like Raisin Bran and frosted shredded mini wheat, which I know everyone loves that, is falls into that category. Additionally, picking whole grains such as brown rice, barley, bulgur, oatmeal, quinoa, and millet, just to name a few of the whole grains available, as well as whole grain pasta, oatmeal, old-fashioned grits, and popcorn all fall into the whole grain category. So I'm sure that all of you have a whole grain that you like to eat. If you could put in the chat for me one of the foods from this list of whole grains that you typically eat, I'd like to kind of see where we're all falling in our whole grain intake. So let's take a minute, open up the chat box and write to us what you like. And I can tell you a little bit about what I usually eat while we're waiting for that to happen. Let's see what we got here. Whole grain bread, quinoa and black beans. That's a great choice. Oatmeal, another fabulous choice. Lots of quinoa on here, which is great. It always makes me smile when people new to quinoa try to pronounce it. Very cute pronunciations of quinoa, but lots of great varied whole grain choices there. So as you can see, you have lots of options. And so what you want to think about when you're thinking about adding whole grain is to think about what grains you eat the most. Do you eat bread every day on a sandwich? Do you eat pasta every night? Do you eat cereal every morning? And try to switch those commonly consumed foods over to whole grains, because that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. All right. Let's move forward here. All right. Next, you want to increase your soluble fiber intake. And soluble fiber has many benefits. There's two types of fiber in our foods, soluble and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber, you want to think of it like a sponge. It's included in plant cells, including beans, oat cereals, Brussels sprouts, oranges, flax seeds, apricots, apples, and pears. It helps to absorb water and swells to make a thick jelly-like mass, which comes along in the blood and kind of sucks up the cholesterol, especially unhealthy cholesterol. It binds with it in the digestive tract and moves it out of the body before absorption. So instead of you absorbing it, it moves out of your body, which is beneficial. The benefits of fiber intake, including soluble fiber, is that it decreases total and LDL cholesterol levels, protects against stroke and diabetes, lowers blood pressure, and encourages a healthy weight. Now you have a plan to add some whole grains to your diet. What's next? Well, this is always going to be the crux of any presentation that we give on a healthy diet. There's no way around it, is to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables daily. You want to aim for at least 5 total servings of fruits and vegetables daily. Ideally, if you're going for A++ grade, you want to get in 9 to 10 servings a day. I have a secret for you. Even the best dietitians, which of course we have on our team, have struggled to eat 9 to 10 servings a day. So don't think it has to be perfection. Just increasing your intake of fruits and vegetables is beneficial. And the more you can get in, the better. Benefits include they're a good source of vitamins and minerals. They're low in calories, but they fill you up. They contain fiber and water, which helps you to fill up while eating less calories. They have a lot of fiber, as well as they contain plant chemicals or phytochemicals that help prevent heart disease. And think about the fruits and vegetables to focus on would be canned fruit packed in juice or water, fresh or frozen vegetables and fruit, and low sodium canned vegetables. There's a common misconception that frozen vegetables are not a good choice and fresh is best. But actually, some frozen vegetables can be better choices because they are picked at the peak of freshness and ripeness and frozen, oftentimes right there in the field. So when you get them, they are at their highest nutrient content, and that has been preserved in the freezing process. Often too, unless you're buying them with a sauce or seasoning, they don't have any added ingredients to them. So don't discount them as a choice. They're more shelf stable. They also can be on sale. And then you can keep them around anytime you need them, especially if you live in a house with a picky husband like I do, who doesn't eat as many vegetables as I would like to. Frozen are great if you're making vegetables just for yourself. So what is a serving? of fruits and vegetables, because 9 to 10 sounds like a lot. What does that look like? So this is a quick cheat sheet from the American Heart Association on fruit and vegetable portion size. So one medium fruit is about the size of your fist. So apple, orange, peach, pear, think about the size of your fist. And there are some apples out there that are more like the size of a 5-year-old's head. Those are a little too big. So keep in mind the serving size for one medium piece of fruit. Or half a cup of fresh or frozen or canned fruit, a 1/4 cup of dried, and a 1/4 cup of juice. Juice can have its place in a healthy diet, but we always encourage you to try to eat your fruit whole and rather than juiced, so that you get the benefits of the fiber as well. For vegetables, it's 1 cup of leafy vegetables, so lettuce, spinach, spring mix, half a cup of fresh, frozen, or canned, and half a cup of vegetable juice, such as carrot juice or tomato juice. And so something to keep in mind when you're counting your vegetables and fruit servings is these standard serving sizes. It might make it look like you're actually eating more than you thought because you may be eating a cup of cooked vegetables at a time. And you also want to keep in mind eating more color. A question that we get a lot in our practice is what's the best vegetable and what's the best fruit? And I think if we polled everybody, they would have different answers, but our overall answer is you want to eat the colors of the rainbow so that you get the different plant chemicals that come in those different colors. Each color brings a different group of benefits, so make sure that you're eating a variety and eating within those colors. So if you do not like cauliflower, for instance, why don't you try a potato or a mushroom to get your white group? Or if you don't like kale, that's okay. Eat spinach. You don't have to force things you don't like, but look at all of your options within that color group. And this picture does a great job of showing how many fruit and vegetable options are out there. So now what else? You have your fruits and vegetables and your whole grains. How about next, I want you to think about eating 2 servings of fish weekly. Do we have fish lovers out there? And what, if you could put in the chat what your favorite kind of fish is? See what we have. I'm a tuna fish girl. I love a good tuna salad sandwich, you know, old school. We have lots of salmon. Salmon across the board, a sea bass and a grouper. And tuna and salmon, so lots of salmon, lots of fish eaters, which is great because fish contains omega-3 fatty acids, and they may benefit heart health by decreasing triglycerides, lowering blood pressure, reducing blood clotting, decreasing risk of strokes and heart failure, and reducing irregular heartbeats. Omega-3 fatty acids are only found in food, not made by the body, and they can also help to decrease inflammation. So the recommendation from the American Heart Association is to eat fish at least twice a week to reduce heart risk disease. And so that's aiming for a total of 8 ounces a week, or two 4-ounce servings. And what you want to think is that's about the size of the palm of your hand or a deck of cards to give you an idea of what that looks like. And to encourage intake of these omega-3 fatty acids, you want to choose fatty or oily fish like tuna, including canned tuna, herring, lake trout, mackerel, sardines, cod, and salmon, as these contain the highest amount of omega-3 fatty acids. And yes, that can be canned salmon and sardines in the tin. So that's another thing to add to your list. And if you're already doing that, you're helping your heart and might not have even known it. Next, you want to choose healthy fats. And so you want to think about fats that are labeled as polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fat, which are unsaturated fats that may help lower blood cholesterol levels when replacing saturated fat. So for instance, decreasing your butter intake and using tub margarine. So you want to think about trying fats such as reduced fat, whipped, or liquid margarine spreads. So for instance, Smart Balance, or I can't believe it's not butter, to give you some examples. Fish and seafood, skinless poultry, lean cuts of beef and pork instead of fattier cuts of those meats or poultry with skin on it. For your snacks, you want to think about raw or unsalted nuts and seeds or nut butters, hummus with vegetables, avocado toast, whole grain crackers as options. For oils, you want to think about liquid vegetable oils. So corn, canola, olive, soybean, avocado, and safflower oils, just to give you some examples. And you can also think about avocado as a source of healthy fats. Things you want to limit are your fatty meats, your bacon, and your lard. So if you have someone in your family that cooks lard, like for instance, my husband is Pennsylvania Dutch and his family buys potato chips cooked in lard. It's a delicacy in their opinion, probably not the best choice for their hearts. Also thinking about gravies and cream sauces as treats rather than regular foods to consume. But there's lots of healthy fat options. What you do want to keep in mind about fat is that it adds up in calories quickly, regardless of the type of fat. So you want to use heart healthy fats, but also make sure you're controlling the portion size. Next, we move on to some of the things to limit. There's always going to be a short list of things that you should cut back on. And so we have a really long list of things to increase or add or make sure you're eating, but we have a short list of things to avoid. The first is saturated fat. And it is found in animal-based protein foods. So your meats, it's often solid at room temperature, and sources include beef, lamb, pork, and poultry, beef fat, lard, cream, and butter. And then your vegetable sources include coconut, palm oil, and palm kernel oil. The intake of saturated fat raises low density lipoprotein cholesterol, or LDL cholesterol, which we typically label as the bad cholesterol in the diet. And research shows that if you limit saturated fat, it lowers your unhealthy or LDL cholesterol levels in your blood. Keep saturated fat intake to no more than 6% of total calories each day. Doesn't mean a whole lot, so I wanted to give you an example. If you're consuming 2,000 calories, that would be 13 grams of saturated fat a day. And if you're consuming 1,500, that would be 10 grams. And you can find the saturated fat content of your food on the nutrition facts label on the back of the box or the packaging. It will be a drop down from the fat content for you. And so you can see here in this steak heart, which I thought was really cute, the marbling, the white parts, what we call marbling in the meat is that saturated fat. So when you're choosing meat, the more marbling you see, the higher fat those meat choices are going to be. You can also lower your saturated fat by increasing your intake of plant-based proteins, including beans and tofu, as they will not contain saturated fat. And so increasing those options can be beneficial. So what do you choose? You want to choose low-fat dairy products. So 1% or skim milk, low-fat cheese, non-fat yogurt, and low-fat ice cream. If you're a whole milk drinker and you just can't fathom skim milk, drop down to 2% and then work your way down to 1%. You can do baby steps to move in the right direction. You don't have to go from all to nothing. Do what you feel like is going to be sustainable for you. You want to choose lean beef, pork, or venison. You want to take the skin off of your poultry because a lot of the saturated fat is found in the skin. Choose reduced fat or whipped or liquid spreads in place of stick margarine or butter. Liquid vegetable oils, eggs instead of organ meats, beans, tofu, and soy products. And try to limit your intake of hot dogs, sausages, and bacon to more like treats than your daily breakfast choice. And then make sure that you're choosing fish and trying to limit your fried or breaded meat choices. The next fat to be cautious of is trans fats. And these fats increase levels of LDL cholesterol in the blood. They're typically hydrogenated fat found in processed food. And foods that may contain them include stick margarine, shortening, sweets and baked goods, fried foods, and packaged foods made with hydrogenated oils. You want to avoid foods that have partially hydrogenated oil on the ingredient list, including cookies, pastries, baked goods, biscuits, crackers. And you can see here, trans fats will also be on the food label right under fats as well. When they made the rule for trans fats to be on the label, many companies did remove trans fats from their foods. So you may not find them as much, but it is something to look out for and try to limit as much as possible. Oh, goodness, hold on, let's get back in here. All right, next we want to look at sodium intake. So along with fat intake, monitoring and moderating your sodium intake is important. Excessive sodium intake can increase blood pressure, which can damage the heart over time. 9 out of 10 Americans, so most of us here, consume too much sodium. And excessive levels of sodium can put you at risk for multiple issues, including enlarged heart muscle, headaches, kidney disease, osteoporosis, stroke, heart failure, high blood pressure, kidney stones, and stomach cancer. So some of you in the audience are probably thinking, well, that's not me. Well, let's talk a little bit about where sodium comes from. The recommendation is for you to aim for 1,500 milligrams or less of sodium per day per the American Heart Association. Sources of sodium. A lot of us think that if we don't salt our foods or use salt in cooking, that we're not consuming sodium. But unfortunately, 70% of the sodium we consume comes from processed and restaurant foods. So it's not even including foods that you salt yourself. 10% of the sodium we eat is added while cooking, and 15% occurs naturally. Yes, some of our food naturally has sodium in it. So you can't be eating a salt-free diet very easily. The top 6 salty foods include bread and rolls, cold cuts and cured meats, pizza. I know we love some pizza out there, poultry, and especially, your breaded and processed poultry, chicken nuggets, chicken tenders, and sandwiches. Keep in mind that when you use salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt contains over 1/3 of your sodium for the day at 575 milligrams. So if you are a salter of your food, definitely an area to begin to work on. And sometimes as you begin to cut your sodium intake, your food can taste bland because your taste buds need to adjust to that lower level of sodium. So it can take some time to adjust to those changes. Instead of using salty foods and table salt, you want to think about using herbs and spices, citrus to increase flavors, as well as salt-free seasoning blends such as Mrs. Dash. For canned soups and prepared foods, you want to look for these items with no added salt or reduced salt. And lines like Healthy Choice often are automatically are lower sodium versions. So looking for companies that tout being lower in sodium. Tomato juice, you also want to aim to pick a lower sodium version of that, and potentially reduce salt versions of condiments that you use frequently. Additionally, restaurant meals, and thinking of the more food you can prepare yourself, the more sodium content you can control. We're wrapping up the list of things to adjust, and we always have to mention alcohol intake. And I think this is an area of heart health that causes some confusion, but excessive alcohol intake increased risk of blood pressure, obesity, and stroke. And a lot of times people will say, well, I heard red wine is good for your heart. Should I start drinking? Should I pick up drinking? And there's no need to begin drinking for potential health benefits. There is some research that suggests health benefits from wine, especially red wine, but that strong link between drinking and heart health has not yet been made. So if you do consume alcoholic beverages, keep it to 2 or less drinks for men a day, and then 1 or fewer drinks per day for women. So make sure you keep it to a moderate amount of alcohol intake. So now we've reviewed the strong points to heart health and what you should consider in your diet. How do you actually make this happen? I think it's really easy for us to give you a list of the facts, but how do you make it happen in your day to day? Or how do we as dietitians try to make this happen in our day to day? And so one thing I think is easy and we know is beneficial across the board is increasing your fruit and vegetable intake. Set that goal for at least 5 servings a day. And an easy way to do that, and what I do on the daily basis for my lunch and dinner, is try to have half of my plate be comprised of fruits and vegetables. And that's a great goal for every meal that you eat, because that will set you up to get filled up with those lower calorie options, and then moderate the protein and the carbohydrate foods that you're eating, the portion size of those.
Valaree, I think you might have muted yourself. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties left and right. I'm sorry. Did you hear the fruit and vegetable part, Caitlin?
Yes.
Fabulous. All right. So consider using produce as healthy snacks as well. So apples and cheese, banana and peanut butter, vegetables and hummus are great options to get a good healthy snack in there and tide you over to your next meal. Choose whole grains for carbohydrate foods that you eat regularly. So if it's a whole grain cereal, a whole grain bread, try some whole grain pasta. They've come a long way since they first came out. And so see if any of those, hit the spot for you. Also plan to eat fish at least twice a week. If cooking fish twice a week sounds overwhelming, don't underestimate using canned tuna, salmon, or sardines as options. Choose lean meats and lower fat cooking options. Try things like white meat chicken and turkey, lean ground meat, or lean cuts of pork or beef. Try a meatless meal at least once a week, such as vegetarian chili, Mexican food focused on beans, or a tofu and vegetable stir fry. And then put down the salt shaker and try to spice up your foods with herbs, spices, and citrus. And just to show you, I think sometimes when we talk healthy eating, it looks really complicated and it's like, I don't have time to cook like that. And trust me, I feel that way too. So I just wanted to show you some photos of some meals that are filling half the plate with vegetables or using heart healthy options such as the oatmeal and the fruit to show you that it can be done and can be incorporated into your daily consumption. And then today's feature recipe that is available is for peanut butter energy balls from Eating Well. And it's a wonderful recipe because it is a make ahead and you can eat them throughout the week of little energy bites that are easy to travel with and that provide you a hit of fiber, whole grains, and a little bit of protein as well. And even the pickiest of husbands like these, so give them a try. You can also mix and match the mix-ins, like the chocolate chips and the coconut, and substitute for flax or dried fruit. If you need some other flavor options, you can also use another nut butter like almond or cashew. So it's kind of a mix and match method here. So give those a shot. Really great to make with kids as well. And then before we open for questions and answers, we just want to tease the next session, Dishing Up Nutrition Teaching Kitchen. So every other month we have a teaching kitchen, and the March theme is National Nutrition Month, Celebrate a World of Flavors. In March is National Nutrition Month. Caitlin Benda will be demonstrating our featured recipe, and please join us on Tuesday, March 15th from noon to 12:30. So thank you so much for joining us, and Karen, we'll hand it over to you for some questions.
I'm unmuted now.
Yes, hi.
Great job, Valaree.
Thank
and
you.
Look at this perfect timing. It's 12:29. You are on it.
Thank you.
Lots of great information, lots of great examples of what we should eat and labeling tips. Okay, getting to our questions. We do have a few. The first question, I have always heard that margarine is terrible for you because of the chemicals. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. And we get asked that question a lot. And what you want to think is that the fats that are used in margarine are your unsaturated fats. So if you're using fat for heart health, the benefits of using those unsaturated fats versus the saturated fats in butter is found to be the most beneficial. And so the recommendation for margarine, especially tub margarine, not your stick margarine, stands and is still the recommendation for heart health.
Great. Let me scroll. Oh, this is a good question.
Oh,
Thoughts on farm raised versus wild caught fish?
that's a great question. And luckily I just read up on that a little bit. And Karen, if you have thoughts, let me know as well. I believe from what I read, they found that some farm raised salmon can actually be higher in omega-3 fatty acids. So they find that is still, similar fatty acid content. My thoughts are fish is beneficial across the board. So whatever you're able to obtain and to eat based on cost and availability, you're still going to get great benefits from fish, either way. Any comments on that, Karen, for me?
Excellent. I think that's perfect. Definitely. Let's see. Another question. Thoughts about chicken sausage?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you're looking at things like chicken sausage or turkey bacon, you want to think about they are considered processed meats. So it's beneficial to limit them to be more of your treats and more of things you eat occasionally versus every day. So thinking of still moderating those, even if they're made from chicken or turkey, and also looking to see that they do provide lower amounts of fat. And saturated fat when you're choosing them, because sometimes when you get into these alternative meats, when you compare them side by side, they're not always as healthy as you think. So I think they're good choices. They give you another option, but you still want to consider using them in moderation.
Okay, we have another question, Valaree.
Great.
What supplements do you recommend when following a vegan diet?
That's a great question. We always encourage you to try to consume as many nutrients as possible from your diet. So I think when people are following a vegan diet, it's a great idea to consult with a dietitian who can look at what you're eating and compare it to what you need. But vitamins, we often look for to be insufficient or not consumed enough in a vegan diet are vitamin B12, iron, calcium, and vitamin D. And so those are nutrients you should look into your diet to see if it contains enough of them. And if it does not, then those would be supplements that would be considered for sure.
And I think the last question is a great question. I thought coconut oil was good for you. What are the facts?
Yes, that's a great question. Coconut oil has been very trendy over the past few years. And if you like the flavor of coconut, it can be very delicious too. But what you want to think is coconut oil is one of the few plant oils that is a saturated fat. But coconut oil is unique because it contains a different kind of fat called medium chain triglycerides. And they are processed differently by the body than long chain triglycerides, which are the fats that we typically consume. And so there's been some studies that have shown that medium chain triglycerides, or MCTs, actually can help promote weight loss. And so of course, coconut oil has gotten very popular. But what you want to consider is coconut oil is only a small percentage of those medium chain triglycerides, and then the rest of it is saturated fat. And so you're not getting just the benefits of those medium chain triglycerides. You're getting a really big hit of saturated fat. So it should still be used in moderation and really considered in the saturated fat family, and not used with abandon.
Fabulous. I'm scrolling. I think that we had some really good questions. And I
Yes,
think
thank you,
we
everybody.
are finished. I think you've settled all of them. So wonderful. Great job.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for moderating for me today. And for everyone for joining us. We really look forward to seeing you on March 15th to step into Caitlin's kitchen and see what worldly recipe she's going to make for us. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.